Welcome to This Is Menopause, where together we explore the marvelous and, yes, sometimes treacherous journey of menopause and that mysterious detour perimenopause. We're here to rewrite these chapters to change her story.
This is Menopause, Season 2, Episode 1. We're really excited to be back. I am Dr. Christy Guepet, and I'm here with my medical partner, co-host, dear friend, and menopause co-pilot, Dr. Angela McCool-Pearson.
It's great to be back. We've had so many offline combos since we finished filming last season, and here we are with these brand new big mics.
Yes.
So, yeah, let's dive in.
Big mics. Lots of things have changed. We have a new logo. We have a new set. We have new microphones. But one thing has not changed. The standard of care in women is not, and it never has been, enough. Why? What do we really mean when we say the standard of care isn't enough? And why is that particularly important for menopause?
Well, the standard of care has been the annual pap smear, an exam, a breast exam at that same time, pelvic exam, and ordering a mammogram if you're of age. There really has been no standard menopausal care. So those women that needed extra help have suffered because there is no, or that are menopausal or perimenopausal age have suffered.
Yes. Those symptoms were really dismissed.
Very much.
Hormone replacement has been the treatment to avoid, only to use in extreme situations. And that's why we want to talk about that standard and actually what sets us apart and why we're different.
Yeah, because we've been writing hormones outside of the box, so to speak, for most of our careers, in spite of the fact that everybody else was saying, no, don't do that. And patients were afraid to take them.
We are not new to the hormone replacement conversation.
And a lot of people are, and I think that is what sets us apart. We've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. So we are both medical doctors. We are both board certified by the American College of OBGYN. We practiced general OBGYN for many years before focusing our practices on advanced gynecologic surgery and urogynecologic surgery. So our practice has certainly changed over the course of the 25 years, but one thing was constant. We took care of menopausal women the entire time. And we made the choice in recent years to pull out of the operating room, to come into the office, to hone in on hormone replacement and intimate health in women.
Because there's such a need.
Yes, there are not many of us that do it.
There's a lot of people that have kind of recently got involved, and, it has a space now on social media and in medicine, but there's those of us that have been doing it for a long time, outside of the box, to the point that we even got criticized.
Absolutely. When the WHI trial, which is the Women's Health Initiative, the initial data was presented in 2002, and the study was a huge government-funded study that was designed to help explore and understand hormone replacement therapy in menopausal women. And the interpretation of that data ultimately was devastating to women's health. It was a pivotal moment in women's health because the headline was hormones cause breast cancer, and women need to stop their hormones. And that's what happened. Women stopped overnight. Doctors stopped prescribing overnight. And we have an entire generation of physicians and providers that trained and practiced in fear of hormone replacement.
And weren't even trained in hormone replacement.
Right.
I mean, think about what little training we had as residents back, 25 and 20 years ago. So what little we had then completely stopped.
Right.
Because nobody was writing hormone replacement therapy.
Right. It was baffling to me because I was in residency in 2002, and I read the study. And what the study said to me was that women who take hormone replacement live longer than women who don't. If a woman has breast cancer, and she took hormone replacement, she lives longer than if in a woman who has breast cancer and never took hormone replacement. These women were older and
older.
relative poorer health than the women were starting on hormone replacement, and they still live longer. Women who had had a hysterectomy actually had lower rates of breast cancer.
Yes, estrogen alone.
So if you were willing to read the study and try to understand what it said, the headlines were wrong.
Which is typically what happens. The headline that grabs the reader, that grabs the layperson, is what gets put out there. And the media did that disservice to our patients. But I, like you, read the study and I kept writing hormone replacement therapy. It was very difficult to get patients to not be afraid. It was also difficult to get their other providers to not stop what I had written. And then when patients would, say somebody did get diagnosed with breast cancer, then they would say, oh, it's because you wrote me those hormones. And all the while I'm thinking, this is not what the study said at all. So I just kept on, and I just kept adding to what I was doing because I knew it was the right thing to do. And now we have data that proves it was the right thing to do, was to continue to write hormone replacement therapy, that it is protective.
20 years later, we're still fighting the fear. Fortunately, the tide is turning, and more women are realizing that this is a not only safe but protective and preventative choice, because we have a generation of women that has been denied.
Oh yeah, and or told to stop it, or by their oncologists, by their primary care, by their internal medicine doctors, by all their other providers. And it's a shame because those women didn't live as long, or if they are still alive, they have chronic medical illnesses.
Diabetes, dementia, hip fractures from osteoporosis, in a wheelchair at an early age, and probably divorce.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, for sure. Because they could not have an intimate relationship with their husband, and nobody cared about that.
The standard of care was
pap smear, pelvic exam, breast exam, mammogram order. Yes, and that was it.
And that is changing, but it's going to take us half a century to
we'll be retired, long retired before we catch up. But to spin that positively, I'm just happy that we are where we are now, and that we have support, and it's legitimized what you and I have been doing in our space for so long now.
Because we have been criticized. We have had to stand through the fire of criticism. The hormone doctors. Oh, the
sex doctors. Sex doctors. Yes.
And we did it with confidence. I mean, we actually had scientific evidence supporting what we were doing. And we have seen lives change in front of our eyes.
Which is why we kept doing it.
Exactly. And that is what is why we're different, and why this work matters so much to us, is because we literally see women's lives change before our eyes.
In our own.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. And even the women that work in our clinic that are in our age, I've seen them when they finally have let go of their fear, because now they know, you or I've sent them enough literature to say, don't be afraid to do this. And they're like a new person.
Yes. I think that so many women have dreaded menopause and perimenopause because all of society kind of just dismissed how they felt. Maybe gave them an antidepressant, or even Valium.
Often gave an antidepressant.
And what we know is that this stage of life is not perfect, but it is fabulous. And
especially if you have some hormones.
Yes. I mean, that's the difference.
Yes.
I mean, it really can be a second prime. Your perspective, and
wisdom, your experience.
Yeah.
You've raised your children.
And you can really grasp on to joyful things in life, as long as you feel like your body and your mind is cooperating. And hormones change us from little girls into women. And of course, for most women, there are going to be dramatic consequences of those hormones going away. It changes the changes our essence.
It changes your whole being, from your psyche down. I mean, your physical body, your psyche, your metabolism, everything. I mean, we've talked about this. There's hormone receptors all over your body. And so it changes, even just the way you process information changes, how you deal with everyday life changes.
Well, for example, sleep is so important. And as women start sleeping less and less in menopause, their brain and body cannot recover. So of course they're going to have more brain fog and be exhausted and just kind of walking through life, checking off checklists till they can get back in bed.
And irritable, you're agitated when you don't sleep.
Yes.
You don't feel good. When I get a good night's sleep, I feel so empowered the next day.
Yes.
It just makes, I feel like a whole new person.
Yes.
Women, people in general, but our patients are women, underestimate the importance of that.
Yes.
It's huge.
Absolutely. I really never was a butterfly person earlier in my life, but over the last several years, the butterfly really is a meaningful symbol to me. And I actually think it's kind of the spirit animal of menopause. It is not this final hormonal stage that we're in. It's not static, but it is a hormonal finality, as far as the production of hormones by our own body.
When it's over, it's over.
It is. But just like the butterfly, I mean, that's the after the cocoon and the work of breaking out of that cocoon, what a wonderful stage of the life cycle the butterfly is. And one of someone I respect so much told me that something I didn't know about a butterfly is that if a human or another animal disrupts that cocoon, tries to open that cocoon for in the middle of the chrysalis, the butterfly will die because the process of breaking through that cocoon is vital for life and the strength of the legs and the wings. And I think that is also really a meaningful analogy when it comes to menopause and getting here. It took us a lot of work in our life to get here.
It's a process too, to go from the cocoon to the butterfly.
Yes.
It's a process.
Hard work.
Yeah. It's a process to go from feeling really bad and not like yourself to feeling better. And it's not an overnight process. And it requires that you change your whole mentality and mindset about how you eat, how you sleep, how you live day to day, what you prioritize in your life, and the consistency in which you prioritize that. So the one thing I'm hesitant about is, there's so much social media online now about, if you have X, Y, or Z, then you just need to tweak this hormone, that hormone, and you're better. It is so much more deep than that. And it requires so much more than just writing a prescription and saying to the patient, I'll see you in 12 months, because that doesn't work.
Yes. Mindset, I think, is the first thing for women to realize, okay, I've got to shift my mindset from I'm falling apart. The best of my life is behind me. I'm hopeless. I've, been to multiple doctors and the best of my life is behind me. Versus there's never been a better time in history to be a menopausal woman.
No, because you have options now.
You have got options.
The last 25 years was not a good time to be. And even before that, when all we had was Prempro or Prim and Provera, those women didn't suffer nearly as badly as the last 25 years have. But still, even those women were told they were crazy.
Yes.
And I think now that we know so much more and we have so much more, data that proves to us how beneficial it is, it's a really good time to be a late perimenopausal or menopausal woman, because you have so many options. It's just a matter of, can you find the person to help walk you through that? Right. And that's still a difficult thing, because there's just not a lot of people that do what we do.
Absolutely.
With the experience that we have for as long as we've done it and lived it ourselves. And so that's the difficult part, is finding the person that can really help you.
Right. So a mindset shift, and including hope. hope for improvement, because this can truly be a second prime of life. But slow down. But when women chase a quick fix down a rabbit hole, if something promises to fix something very quickly,
It's not real.
it's not.
And it may be dangerous even.
Right.
You know, so many of our patients are saying this whole thing about supplements versus prescriptions or natural versus synthetic. You know, a lot of that's just marketing language. And, you know, so many people are so willing to take something that they can buy online versus get a prescription for, and they underestimate the dangers in that. Not that only will you not be better and you spent money, you may actually cause detriment to yourself. I mean, your liver is...
We see that.
Yeah.
We literally have seen it within the last week in our practice.
Yeah. One of my patients who had recurrence of kidney stones from some supplement that she was taking, we think, the most likely culprit, something she was buying over the counter. And another one that has, you know, probably some liver damage from another supplement she was taking. And these things are just, you know, for one, they're not controlled. The FDA is not involved at all in any of that, which is a whole different story. But even then, you don't even know if what you're buying, if what it says is in the bottle, if it's even in there, or was this even made in the United States of America?
Right.
I ordered something online one time because I was curious, and it actually came from India. And I didn't realize in that until it came in the mail 28 days later that it was manufactured in India.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, I'm not taking that, because not only do I not know if it's really going to help me in the first place, I'm not taking something that wasn't made in the United States, because I don't have any idea what's in that product.
Right.
What's it going to do to me?
Quality control of that. Well, I think that what's really sets us apart is our clinical experience and the fact that we're menopausal women living all of these symptoms individually. Your symptoms are different than mine. What works for you is different than what works for me. And we really can serve as interpreters of the vast amount of information that's out there, so that we can come up with curated suggestions and solutions, the very things that we choose for ourselves.
Right.
Because we're overwhelmed with information too. But we have the scientific background and decades of clinical experience to help us do that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the public may underestimate what it takes to actually parse out a scientific study. And does that headline even actually portray what the study, you know, proved or disproved? Because many times it doesn't, just like in WHI. But, you know, when people say, well, I've done my research, you know, your research matters. And, you know, some things we don't have scientific data for, especially when it comes to supplements, we probably won't ever. But we have to be really cautious about understanding where true data comes from and how to really take apart a scientific study of a product or a treatment and say, okay, is this something that's not only does it may fix the problem or help the problem, but is it safe?
Right.
That's, you know, when we do clinical trials, the first part of the trial is to say, okay, does this treatment actually effectively treat the disease or the medical issue? The second and third phase of those trials are long-term safety.
Right.
So it's not just, is it going to help me? Is it going to help me? And is it going to hurt me in the long run? So, I mean, I just think that that's important. And there's so much stuff out there that's not true and not real or really has no basis behind it, and that we could just help educate and guide.
Women are trying to feel better. They're sincerely trying to feel better. They're up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. alone with Google,
Just now AI
to feel better. How many women would you say you see in a month that come in as a new patient who've talked to multiple providers about their symptoms?
It's very common. It's very common. And, you know, and I always try to explain to them that you may have talked to somebody that just, not that they don't care, they're just misinformed or uninformed. And if their practice isn't if this is not a niche for them, a place where they spend their time and their energy and their education, then they're probably not going to be able to help you. So some of what you feel is being dismissed is really just them. First of all, if you're there for a checkup, they have boxes they have to check, and then they have to keep moving. And secondly, they may not know how to help you.
Right.
And so the answer they give you may sound like, I don't want to help you, or no, you don't need to do that, when maybe it's just that they just don't know what to say.
Right.
Or they
That's wrong. You just
Yeah.
alluded to it. The annual exam that women are used to going once, as a young girl and a teenager, young women become aware that one day I'm going to have to go to the doctor once a year. Like that's and when we go through our lives in our 20s and 30s, and a once a year checkup works for most
until
healthy
you get to a certain point.
until you get here. And you will not unpack perimenopausal and menopausal chaos at an annual exam.
Or chaos or the care of it.
Even for physicians with extensive experience in that realm, that's impossible for us to do for our patients.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to set the expectation that this is important. But it requires its own time. And that's the reason that we even say we're going to get this annual exam, which is the standard of care. If Pap smears, mammogram order, we're going to get these things done, and we're going to schedule a consult for you to come back for us to dive into the details. I think that's a huge concept for women to understand, and it will decrease their frustration that they're not being heard.
Yeah.
And when they go back for hormone consult, they may discover that provider is not the right fit. But it's at least a start.
Yes. And expect to go back for follow-up too, because there's not just one prescription or one treatment, because it's such a multifactorial process. And hormones are a huge part of it, but the bigger part of it is let me shift my mindset about how I need to treat myself and my body during the next 25 to 30 years of my life. And it can't be the same way I treated it for the last 25 to 35 years of my life. It just doesn't work that way. I had a patient just this week, and she was a hormone consult patient, and she was back for her follow-up. And, we talk to patients a lot about weight. I mean, because it becomes, the weight gain with age is linear, so it goes up. I mean, that's just, we're fighting that. It's never going to get any easier than it is this year, because it's going to be harder next year. So I explained that to patients. I said, a lot of this is just our aging body and the lack of hormones. But I can treat you with hormones, and if you don't change what you're doing and the way you think about what you eat and how you move your body, your weight's going to continue to just follow that linear line, just like everybody else's does. And so this patient told me what she ate for breakfast: straight carbohydrate diet every day. And I said, the first thing, if you're going to change anything, change what you eat for breakfast. And that's just, something that had never dawned on her, because she'd ate that for breakfast for the last, I don't know how many years.
It's always worked for her before.
Yeah, but it doesn't work anymore.
So an analogy I use a lot with patients is she's sitting in front of me, and I can see dials around her. It's a visual for me, but I also express it to her, almost the old AM/FM radio dials, or the etch and sketch dials. And I'm thinking about all of these dials around her to adjust. The most important dials are how often she's moving her body, the fuel that she's putting in her body, how she's sleeping, how she's managing stress, how much alcohol she's taken in. So those are actually the most powerful dials. And then supplements and prescriptions are down here. They're part of it. They are an important part.
They're not the major part of it.
They aren't. So things that I really encourage women to do is address mindset, realize that it's not going to happen in an annual, schedule a consult, and first let's learn and be curious about what her body's trying to tell her. And then consider, what dials do we need to work on first? I often say, give me your top three. What are the top three things that are holding you back, to help them drill down? Because most of them will have a list of 10 things.
It's very hard for them to give you the top three. It is very difficult.
Oftentimes they have to go home and think about it. And that's a starting point. Now, sometimes we have to come in medically and say, okay, I know weight gain and libido is your top, but the fact that your periods are lasting 2 weeks and they're happening every 2 weeks means we have to make sure there's not an underlying malignancy or pre-malignancy. So you have to have a responsible provider who knows how to walk through this with you and keeps you out of trouble.
Yeah.
Because there's trouble you can get into, not just with supplements, but with hormones too.
100%, especially if you still have a uterus.
Right.
And those women need to be even more particular about who they choose to go to for hormone replacement therapy.
As well as getting their mammograms.
Oh,
There
yeah.
are a lot of providers that are sending prescriptions, whether that's via telemedicine consults, that are not checking off the standard of care.
Right.
Like-
And not because hormones cause breast cancer.
No.
Because if you have an undiagnosed breast cancer, you're going to have to undergo treatment, and you're going to have to come off your hormone replacement therapy and then consider, once you're through with your treatment, restarting it based on a lot of individual factors. And so we just don't want to wantonly give a woman a prescription for hormones without knowing her breast health. So that's why mammograms are so important, because patients say, well, if it's not going to cause me to have breast cancer, I'd have to have a mammogram. I say, because I have to make sure that you don't have a breast cancer right now, or something that needs to be biopsied.
Right. We have to deal with first things first. That's a really
Yeah.
important adage. But I encourage women to think what their top three are, and then to realize they didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get them out of this overnight.
And there's no one magic cure. Your prescription for your estrogen and or your testosterone and or your progesterone are not going to fix all these things. It takes a whole shift in the way you think about it.
To think about nutrition. I mean, we grew up in the 80s and 90s.
What was it called? The recommended daily allowances, or the RDAs and all that. Remember all that?
Yes.
All the different food groups.
Yes.
And, yeah.
And
It was a bunch of-
remember the Weight Watchers craze of popcorn and Crystal Light in the 90s?
and a bowl of ice cream. As long as your
I mean,
points, just stop at your points.
So I coach women that you've got to start thinking, and calories are important, but I don't think they're all important like we grew up thinking.
Oh, no,
Okay,
it's
this easy formula. You exercise more and burn more calories than you take in calories, and that's a formula that works. But in order for that formula to hold true through your entire life, your body has to metabolize each calorie the same. And your body does not metabolize a calorie from salmon the same way it does a calorie from ice cream.
No, it doesn't.
And
You have to learn how to read labels.
yes. And, when I talk through this, calories are something that you can calculate in your head to some extent. Macros, you're going to have to use technology. And I wish I could throw technology back to the universe sometimes, but it helps us in this realm. And I had a patient this week. It was like, I'm just not good at that. And I said, choose your hard.
Yeah. You're going to have to get
Choose your hard.
if you want to feel
can
better.
do it, but you're going to have to make the decision that you're going to put in the work because you want to feel better.
Otherwise, I can't help.
Mangoes and strawberries
Oh, yum.
and blueberries with orange juice and milk and coffee in the morning
Oh, no.
would have been, that was full of fiber. It was full of antioxidants
You met all the RDAs.
when you were 20 years old. But all that is carbohydrate.
Sugar.
So learning how to, learning how to understand macro intake to really increase protein. And I've got women who all the time are like, oh, I eat well. I eat a lot of protein. I'm like, unless you're recording it,
You're not eating enough.
actually, you have no idea.
And you're not eating enough, because what you really need to eat is a large amount, and women don't get there. Yeah, I have to conscientiously think about my grams of protein every day to make sure I hit.
And it's kind of,
I know,
but
I know, but it's just what it takes.
that's what it takes.
If I can't manage my weight, if I don't, and I can't get through my workouts the way I want to, my strength training, if I don't manage my intake.
Another dial is exercise. Exercising 2 to 3 days a week. worked in our 20s and 30s. It does not work now. It needs to be 5 to 6 days a week.
Consistent.
Sleep. I think a lot of women fight sleep. It's their only time
I love
of the day that they're by themselves.
Oh no, I love sleep.
Well, and this is what is a fabulous example of how we're different.
Yes.
I mean, things that work for you and your struggles are different than mine. Yeah, sleep is not one of my strong points.
Oh, we know.
But I have learned to prioritize it.
Yes, because
And
you know how important it
I'm
is.
committed to it.
Yes, you have to.
Brain and the rest of the world needs me to sleep, and that
We all need to sleep.
Yes.
We all need you to sleep.
But that's been something that I've had to commit to. Do you have any analogies that you use to try to help women conceptualize all of these different things that they need to work on so that they don't put too much emphasis on a prescription to be a fix?
I don't know that I think about it in that context. I don't compartmentalize it like that, but I do tell them right off the bat that I may be able to optimize your hormone replacement therapy, but the rest of it's on you. And so we have to work together as a team to get you feeling better, but you've got to do your part because this is not a magic cure.
Like Jerry Maguire, help me, help you.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we have to do it together, and it's not a simple fix. And I think that's what bothers me about social media so much. I think what they're portraying is you just know, go see the right doctor, get your prescription, and you're going to feel better. And I'm like, but if you tell women that and they don't, you've kind of set them up for failure when you haven't explained to them why the rest of things are important too, because it's not just a prescription. This isn't treating hypertension. This isn't I write you a prescription for hypertension and your blood pressure is normalized, your hypertension is treated. That's not how this works. It is so much more complex than that. And I think that I just tell them from the get-go, I can help you with your hormones and make you feel better and optimize that. But the rest of it's going to be up to you.
I'll also say that this is very much a trial and error process. I don't have a crystal ball to know what's going to work. I can make an educated guess. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can make an educated guess. And learning what works for them is really important, but I also need to know what doesn't work. And when I discover what doesn't work is at a follow-up appointment.
Right.
So
If you don't come back and talk to me, then I don't know.
Exactly. I need to know what's going well and what's not going well. And we can, chip down on that, priority list.
I also think that that is so important because I learn so much more about my patients' personal lives and everything else that's going on to affect their psyche and the way they feel at each additional visit, because there's so much that we don't get when the patient says, I feel terrible. That may not just be a physical thing. That may be they feel terrible because of what's going on inside their household or with their family or, their partnership with their spouse or their children or their aging parents. And so there's so much more to, I just don't feel like myself anymore. It's not just your hormone deficiency. So you learn that when you keep going back and saying, okay, this is what feels better. This is what doesn't. And, oh yeah, then you have more time to talk to your patient about, okay, well, what else is going on with you? Talk to me and explain to me when you say, I don't feel like myself, what does that mean exactly? Or I feel awful. Define that for me. What does that mean? I feel awful. Like, does your head hurt? Does your stomach hurt? Do you
Mom in the hospital and you go home on hospice.
Yeah, exactly. Those things that you just don't know. And if a patient doesn't understand, because I know people get frustrated sometimes that they have to keep coming back.
Yes.
But I set that expectation up front. I say, you know what, I'm going to see you back in 3 months when I first start somebody on a prescription, because I want to make sure that enough time has gone by for all the things that we're trying to optimize to get better before I change something. So I have changed my practice where I used to see them back sooner. I now see them back at the end of 3 months. Just to give all those things just time to settle a bit. And then I say, and then, you maybe come back 3 months after that. Depends on how much better you are.
Right.
Depends on what we've improved on and what we still have work to do. So I think when patients understand that, they're not, surprised by, I got to come back again. Yeah, you got to come back until I feel comfortable saying, okay, you know what, we've optimized all we can medically. And
for women who live across the country from us, that aren't here, this is what we do for our patients with our level of experience. women may have to kind of push that agenda with their providers wherever they are to say, you know what, I want to see if this works. So I'm going to schedule an appointment to go back in 3 months. A lot of busy physicians aren't even thinking like that. So, make sure your doctor knows I see patients all the time who are taken care of by other providers and they stop this medicine or stop that medicine. I'm like, well,
and the provider has no idea they stopped it.
So your doctors need to walk alongside of you in these decisions. And, women who are trying to figure this out on their own without scientific education, it can get them into trouble.
Oh, quickly. And I think AI is so helpful when we're trying to find answers online now. I mean, we've gone a step above Google. So now AI is helping us, because AI will actually, parse out some of that data. But AI cannot reason. AI cannot feel like a human can. And so there's things that you're not going to get from AI that you can get from somebody that has clinical wisdom experience, understands how to read a scientific study and tell you that correlation does not equal causation. And relying just on the internet without, think about how we learned how to read scientific papers. How much time did we, journal club?
Epidemiology.
Yes.
Classes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the things that go into,
Statistics.
oh gosh, I hated statistics, but learning how to read data and actually make sense of it. Like you and I both read the WHI trial in 2002. And I'm like, this isn't what the trial says, and my partner at the time said we had stuff in our rooms that would say, this is actually the rest of the data from WHI, how estrogen does not increase your risk for breast cancer.
I had it in laminated form.
We had ones with tear-offs.
I would say this is what the study says.
Yeah, we had little tear-off sheets that we tore off. And now we know that, okay, we don't even use the progestins that were used in WHI. And prometrium or micronized progesterone gets lumped into that category with synthetic progestins. It's not even the same chemical or compound. And so, but if you're not if you don't have the training that we've had or the understanding that we have, you don't know that. I mean, when you Google progesterone, the symptoms or the side effects that you're going to get are going to be from those synthetic progestins. It's not going to parse out the two, unless you know to ask it specifically. What are the risk factors for micronized progesterone? Because they're very different from synthetic progestins.
Other thing I can't do is let a woman know what's working for her and what's not. So, women are not biologically programmed to pay attention to their bodies.
No, they're programmed the other way.
To just power through. If otherwise, we would stop going to middle school when cramps and acne.
I tried, but my mother would let me.
And I think that's actually important because we need to prioritize our babies in order to keep our babies safe. At this stage in life, we have to change that mindset to realize our life and our body and our mind deserve attention. And we have to pay attention to the details, adjust a dial and then pay attention to what it does. And go back and talk to your doctor. Sometimes we need to even turn that dial forward. But AI can't do that for a woman. She has to set aside that time for herself.
It can't feel for you. There are human characteristics that it doesn't have and never will have.
Well, we are so happy to be back and excited about this new season. Obviously, we have a lot to say. Lots of words inside to share and insight. We do have some new things coming in this season that we're excited about. We're going to have a call-in line so that women can call in and essentially get a mini consult with both of us.
Then we're going to have some co-hosts on. We're going to curate for our audience, these co-hosts that we think are credible and
trusted
voices that we want you to hear along with ours.
So let's land this first episode with a challenge. Maybe think about a dial that you want to adjust, and write it down, whether that's sleep or movement, or sugar, or boundaries. Let's start there with a challenge and hit subscribe.
And then let us help you sift through the noise, decode the science, and get you feeling better on the other side. Walk through it with you. So subscribe, like, and follow, and for more ahead.
Yes. It's the ride of our lives. This is menopause.